Yeah, she's back to baseline mental status. But I'm sorry, I'm confused. Aren't you off duty? I'm Roxy's death doula. Her what? I help advocate for people like Roxy to make their transition to death a more peaceful process. It's like a birth doula, but for the end of life.
She's been a real lifesaver for our family.
First in episode 4, then again in this one, Whitaker checks in with Santos, asking if he did something wrong and asking if he can help, knowing the second year of residency can be stressful. Mm-hmm. She brushes him off both times. Why didn't he believe her the first time? And is he seeing something that suggests that there's more going on there than she says?
Yeah, they've been sort of together now for 10 months, and what I imagine to be very close quarters. So yeah, they've been in each other's pockets for the last few months. So me and Issa kind of talk about how they both kind of see each other now. Maybe they won't admit that, but especially Whitaker, I think he's very perceptive and kind of knows what makes Santos tick now. So can tell instantly, if something is off, and Santos hates kind of being perceived. Whereas Whitaker's perceptive and is kind of a really bad combo of, she doesn't like, her walls are up most of the time. But right now, Whitaker is probably the only person who can see that. So she's kind of very defensive about it and doesn't really know how to feel about it right now. But it creates a fun dynamic there of I'm always asking, you doing okay? Which is probably the most annoying thing in the world. But he really cares for her at this point. She's helped him out so much. So yeah, he's kind of bonded to her, much to her disdain.
So when he asked if he did something wrong, is he thinking about something that happened back home? Then?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. I think there's a part of him I think is taking it personally. Yeah, because I don't imagine they have the deepest conversations. They kind of don't let their guard down too much. So yeah, I think Whitaker's very worried. He's messed something up in that delicate living situation that he's very grateful to have. So I think he's constantly checking in there.
Whitaker tells Mohan he thinks he overstepped with Langdon when it comes to prescribing benzos. How does he feel about having Langdon back?
Again, I think he's heard so much about Langdon living with Santos. I imagine Santos has just been chewing his ear off and kind of venting quite a lot about Langdon. So when he comes in, I think that's instantly, I've heard so much, gossip and bad things about you. It's kind of weird you being here right now. And I know how much it affects Santos, his presence, because it was really caused some friction on Santos's first shift. So I know that, him coming in is going to really throw a lot of people, but Santos in particular, off her kind of equilibrium. So I can see that straight away.
Yeah, because Issa's talking about not everyone at the hospital knows exactly what happened. They just know Santos is kind of connected, but Whitaker is someone who does know exactly what happened.
Exactly. So I don't think he necessarily has too much beef with Langdon, but he knows instantly, I'm gonna kind of be in the middle of a sticky situation here. Who do I think his allegiance is with Santos for now, but he's kind of wants to remain as professional as he can. So it's making things awkward, this shift.
It's in this episode, we learn another side of Lena that we did not know about, that she's a death doula. So when did you find out that aspect of your character?
I knew going into the season, so even during filming on season 1, I was pinned. So what they do is casting calls your managers, your agents, and they pin you. So I knew I had been pinned for episodes 5 through 10 or 12, something like that, but I wasn't told why. And so it's funny, during the filming of the first episode, I just was convinced, I was telling everybody, I'm coming back in episode 5. And clearly the night shift is not coming back. So why am I coming back? I was convinced that I was coming back as a patient, that I go home and that clearly something happened to me while I was home during 4th of July and that I was coming back as a patient. And I was just crossing my fingers that God forbid I didn't die.
So then it was the episode 5 script that you found, that you saw the death doula part?
You know what? I was given a little bit more heads up only because the writers gave me the opportunity to speak with Megan, who they had been consulting with, who's the death doula in Pittsburgh, of all places, that they had been consulting with. So I got the opportunity to have a Zoom with Megan a couple of times. So that was lovely. So probably somewhere, well, certainly before, I don't know, probably a few weeks before we started shooting.
Yeah, I was going to ask for you to talk about the research you did and because like being the night shift charge nurse is a tough job alone, but then to be a death doula, that's a whole other level.
I think it's a whole other level, and yet I know this is going to sound crazy. It's probably, though tragic, because we're dealing with death and oftentimes dealing with, you know, in this case, someone who's young, who has a whole life ahead of them and children, etc. But there's something beautiful, and I think that Lena gleans such a sense of humanity and love and that kind of shared love, being able to help these people transition into death. So being a night shift nurse is crazy because it's wacky. Am I allowed to curse? I'm trying to match my language. Okay. It's wacky on the night shift, right? I mean, because we see the day shift, it's crazy enough. Night shift's a whole other ballgame. But so I think this is ironically a sense of peace that she's given, though tragic.
Do you think that's why she became a death doula then?
I do. She became a death doula because, and I think she even says it, you know, listen, it's hard enough working at the ED. You're putting your life on the line all of the time and dealing with everything. And then I think COVID really got to everybody. I think watching people die without their family members around them and, you know, without all of that love, it was, you know, I think, you know, she talks about having to hold up iPads for people to say goodbye to their loved ones. And there's no dignity and there's no grace. It's such a horrible way to die. They must feel so alone without their family. And though they had, you know, the nurses and the medical people around, it's not the same. So I think that's really what drove her to wanting to do this. I think it's a calling, and I know this because I know this myself. I know that this is going to be crazy, but 2 years ago, you know, like a lot of us, unemployed and trying to figure out what else we're going to do with our lives, I looked into being a death doula. This was literally that was the summer of 24. I looked into being a death doula, and it's a calling. And it's a calling for me. And being told all of a sudden that Lena was coming back as a death doula, I literally felt my father speaking to me. Like, I was like, I get it. I get that this is a path I am supposed to take at some point in my life. I hear you.
And also, I'm a bit curious about what you think this says about Lena when it comes to when she's not working, because when she's off shift, you think she'd want to relax, but instead she's doing something that is noble, but also can take up a significant period of time. Like we see, like she's going to be there for hours.
Yeah. I mean, I think, listen, she probably, and now I cannot remember what Megan said. I don't think Megan McGraw is the death doula that I spoke with in Pittsburgh, who is in her life a real nurse also. So I just think, again, I think no matter what, it's a calling. And though you get home from a shift and you're exhausted, I think most of the time she can get rest, get home, shower, go to bed, get some sleep, and then later on in the day, be able to show up for her patients. In this case, it was kind of crazy because this patient ended up in the hospital. And listen, that kind of just happens. You got to roll with that kind of stuff. I don't think it's a daily existence, but you got to roll with it.
And then we see how Lena really steps in, not just to help Roxy, but also when it comes to her husband, Paul, which helps Roxy. How much of that is from being a charge nurse and dealing with patients, and how much is it what she's learned as a death doula, do you think?
I think it's both, right? I think charge nurses, we've been around for so long that that is probably what we do best, is help deal with people, families, and sort of we're like the captain of a ship, even though the doctors are technically the captains of the ship, but we're right there. And I think that just comes naturally. And being a death doula, certainly you are there for the patient, but probably just as much for the family members, because I think the patients have a sense of knowing, because they're going through this, that the family members, husbands, children, parents, they're struggling even more to wrap their head around this. So I think Lena knows that it's a big part of her job is to, certainly her first and foremost, the most important is Roxy, but next in line is Paul, and making sure he feels taken care of.
Robbie is wondering what's going on with Westbridge and they're not getting an answer. Is that something, that there is something going on that's like a security issue? Or is it just the nature of this is the job, they may not get an answer?
No, they're just not getting the information forthwith, because the hospital itself, the other hospital, Westbridge, is loath to reveal what's going on right off the bat, because it has other security implications.